everybody, my name is Kupa, and for our group presentation, we were assigned the author, Edward Taylor. For my part of the project, I did the author's biography as well as his major works. Edward Taylor was born in the year 1642 in Leicester, England. Taylor was a well-known poet in the 17th century. Edward Taylor was a Puritan poet as well as a minister of the Congregational Church in Westerfield, Massachusetts for over 50 years. Edward Taylor attended Harvard University as a student. He began his classes at Harvard on July 23rd, and he was admitted as an upperclassman. During his years at Harvard, he was the college butler in charge of the utensils, as well as he was responsible for collecting the food and drinks. During this time, this job was only given to a mature upperclassman. While at Harvard, he had studies in Greek, Hebrew, logic, metaphysics, rhetoric, as well as astronomy. He would also attend his early morning and evening prayers. Edward Taylor graduated Harvard in the year of 1671. After graduating Harvard, Taylor later went on to become a resident scholar on November 16, 1671. A few days after becoming a resident scholar, Taylor was persuaded to leave Harvard to become the minister of the Westerfield Congregational Church. Edward Taylor would later remain there for the rest of his life. In the summer of 1674, Taylor met and fell in love with his first wife, Elizabeth Fitch of Norwich. The two were married on November 5th, 1674, and together they had 8 children, 5 of whom died during infancy. Taylor's wife, Elizabeth, died on July 7, 1689, and Taylor later remarried to his second wife, Ruth Willis of Hartford. Edward Taylor died on June 24, 1729, and he was buried in Westerfield, Massachusetts. Now we'll be presenting the author's major works. Edward Taylor was a well-known poet and author during the 17th century. During his lifetime, Edward Taylor wrote and published many poems and sermons that were well-known. However, Taylor only had 2 major works that were his best, and they were the Preparatory Meditation, which was written between the years of 1628 and 1725, and the second was God's Determination, which was written in the year 1628.
Hello everyone, I'm Davey, and today I'm going to be talking about the themes used in Edward Taylor's writing, and I will also be talking about the literary era in which Edward Taylor belonged to. So let's get started with the themes. So basically there are 2 major themes used in Edward Taylor's writing, and he used these 2 major themes to basically underline some of the smaller themes which were also used in his writing. Okay, so the first theme that Edward used was actually religion, and through this theme of religion, he utilized such smaller themes as self-reflection in the eyes of God, or examining of inner self, also the righteous man as the Lord's servant. He also used Christ as a rock and a redeemer, and basically all of these themes were very important, not only in Edward's writing, but in his daily life. Most of his writing was catered towards religion and his beliefs. Now, the second theme used in Edward's writing was meditation. And in meditation, he exposed the theme of suffering and grace. Meditation was definitely not as big of a theme as religion for Edward, but it still played a major part in some of his works. Overall, the themes used in Edward's writing were used in order to express his religious views and beliefs. Now let's move on to the literary era in which Edward belonged to. Edward Taylor belonged to the Enlightenment literary era, and the Enlightenment took place during the 18th century. It is sometimes referred to as the Age of Reason, and it was basically a convergence of ideas and activities that took place throughout the 18th century in Western Europe, England, and the American colonies. Now, Edward Taylor can be put into this category for 2 reasons. The first being his writing catered towards his own personal and spiritual faith. As seen in his works, he was very involved in his own religious beliefs, and he wanted to express these beliefs through his writing. Now, the second reason why he was put into the literary era known as the Enlightenment was because of the fact that he embraced independent thought. Edward Taylor strongly understood his personal beliefs, as I said before, and he embraced his own independent thoughts and beliefs about his own religion. And that sums up the themes used in Edward's writing and the literary era to which he belonged to.
Hello everyone, I'm Dominic Zampirri, and I did the key milestones and interesting facts on the early American author Edward Taylor. For all walks of life, everybody hits certain milestones, and here are a few that the great Edward Taylor had hit in his lifetime. On April 26, 1668, he went to Execution Dock in Wapping, London, to then sail to the Massachusetts Bay. His entire voyage across the Atlantic Ocean lasted 70 days. On July 23rd, 1668, he actually enrolled into Harvard University, and on the next slide in the interesting facts, there are, well, some interesting facts about him attending Harvard University. 3 years later, in 1671, he actually wound up graduating Harvard University. He then became a minister in the Bay Colony, where he resided for the rest of his life. Now it's time to talk about some of the interesting facts about Edward Taylor. Now, before he came over to the Massachusetts Bay Colony, he was actually educated by a non-conformist schoolmaster, which led him to then get a teaching job at Bagsworth. In 1662, everybody that worked at the school had to sign the Act of Conformity, but he did not, which then ended his career at Bagsworth. Now, as I brought up earlier, there were some interesting facts about Edward Taylor while he attended Harvard University. One of them being he was actually the college butler, which meant he was in charge of all the payments for food and the utensils in the kitchen area at Harvard University. Now, as I mentioned earlier, he graduated Harvard in 1671, but he actually became a resident scholar. This was interrupted, though, as he had to go through the task of becoming a minister, which actually required him to travel over 100 miles through the snowdrifts of Westfield to eventually reach the Bay Colony, where he resided his entire life. Edward Taylor traveled a lot, but I think it is safe to say that traveling paid off, as he is a very prominent figure in American literature today. And I hope you guys did enjoy.